We have more for your ears only. I'm David Alpern.
I'm Mark Garber with this quote from the news. It's going to be his government to the end, and no one's going to be surprised if it's his government after. That was a former advisor to Afghan President Hamid Karzai on his continuing influence after presidential elections that begin this weekend, preceded by weeks of deadly Taliban attacks, including the murder of one AP journalist and the wounding of another by a police commander providing security for them last Friday. Now this.
Farm workers in Delano, California have begun an unprecedented strike in the Central Valley.
Have you seen the headlines they're getting? That's costing us real money.
You can't oppress someone who's not afraid anymore.
In a powerful convergence of real-life REEL and real-life REAL, the new feature film Cesar, Chavez, an American Hero, has opened at a critical time in a fight begun by the founder of the United Farm Workers Union and expanded into an increasingly desperate campaign for immigration reform. Stalled in Congress by conservative Republicans, that campaign now is gaining unexpected support from some powerful California farm owners with long-standing GOP credentials and an unmet need for more labor from south of the border.
But the stalemate in Congress also is undermining the recently growing commitment of Latino voters, a potential problem for Democrats. To talk about the new film, the new politics, and the continuing struggle for your ears only, we're joined now by a man who worked for and succeeded Chavez and married his daughter in between, current UFW President Arturo Rodriguez. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Let's start with the film. Did you or the union provide any advice or assistance on it?
Well, yes, Paul Chavez, Cesar's middle son, is the president of the Cesar Chavez Foundation, and several of us talked to the director, Diego Luna, the producer, Pablo Cruz, and certainly the scriptwriter, in order to be able to help them and assist them on all the events that transpired back then and give them background information and so forth.
What about the way Michael Pena from End of Watch and Crash plays Chavez as you knew him? Closer than you expected?
Michael, we thought, did an excellent job, really, at portraying Cesar. I mean, at that particular time in his life, there was a lot of resemblances, David, and I think all the actors just were excellent. I mean, they really filled the roles. Certainly, America Ferrera with Helen Chavez and Rosario Dawson with Dolores and so many others. They just did an excellent job.
What was the most important factor in the Chavez formula for making farm worker rights a national and moral issue with coast-to-coast boycotts of domestic table grapes, wine, and such?
Cesar was creative, he was innovative, he was willing to take risk, but more important than anything, he just believed. He had a strong belief and faith in farm workers. He has a strong faith, and he believed that, if we work together, that we could come up with solutions and do things differently than what had been done before to bring about success. And so he was just deeply committed towards bringing about this change.
What was the moment of greatest fear as the movement made enemies as well as friends in progress?
Well, I think, always, you have a lot at stake. I mean, Cesar really coming from a farm worker background, what happened to his parents, having to leave Yuma, Arizona, and at a very young age, he really wanted to not fail, as so many other efforts of trying to organize farm workers had failed in the past. And so for him, failure was not something that he was going to accept.
Well, what are the union's biggest victories from the time of Chavez and now under your leadership?
For sure, that first major victory with the table grape growers back then in 1970 sent shockwaves across the agricultural industry and demonstrated to consumers that their participation in this really was and had a major impact on bringing about the success of the victory there for farm workers back then, and the fact that farm workers themselves, if they united, if they came together, if they worked hard, and they made sacrifices and did things that they were not accustomed to doing, like going out to these urban communities when they had never been there before, to Chicago, New York, and Dallas, and Miami, and all across the nation, that they could, in fact, be successful. And so I think all of those things, and since then, we've continued to achieve victories. In 1975, we got the first Agricultural Labor Relations Act passed here in the United States, giving farm workers the right to organize. Then, and then there was 3 different fasts that Cesar did throughout his lifetime. All of those ended in positive results in terms of ending some of the cancer-causing and birth defect-causing chemicals that are used on agricultural products throughout the country. And then what we continue to do today to bring about changes for farm workers, we've had major victories in the vegetable industry, in the dairy industry, the wine grape industry. We have the largest winery here in the country under contract right now. We have the largest winery in the state of Washington under contract. We have one of the major strawberry growers under contract. We have 75% of the mushroom industry here in the state of California now under contract, where those workers are the best paid farm workers in the United States. And then, of course, our epic battle to be able to once again establish immigration reform for farm workers here in the United States. That takes up a lot of our energy and time and resources, but it's a critical fight because there's such a high percentage of farm workers that are here that do not have legal status in the United States today.
How much influence can Republican growers in need of more labor have on GOP opponents to immigration reform in Congress?
They can have a tremendous impact. Republicans traditionally, or many growers, let's say, traditionally look towards the Republicans for their assistance and help on different types of legislation. So the growers realize that, we are in a critical state right now here in America, not having access to a legalized workforce. And with the continued enforcement, increased enforcement that's transpired over the years now, growers are very much looking for and determining how they're going to continue to supply the workforce for the future.
Arturo,
and so it has a major impact.
How much evidence do you see of what the New York Times reports is growing disillusionment with both parties among Latino voters, whose growing numbers seem such a powerful factor in everyone's political calculations?
Well, I think there is blame on both sides of the aisle. There's no doubt about it. People are tired. We've been fighting this fight for the last 14 years now, and it's difficult to continue there when everybody knows America has said time and again, Americans have said that the majority of them support to fixing the broken immigration system here in our country.
Arturo Rodriguez worked for and succeeded Cesar Chavez as president of the United Farm Workers of America.
Quote from the news, hiding the truth from families that need to know. It's outrageous and needs to stop. That was Missouri's Democratic Senator Claire McCaskill blasting General Motors CEO Mary Barra for failing to provide documents to the family in one of several cases involving failed ignition switches that belatedly led to 6 million recalls.
Next, inside the mind of a champion in sports and beyond for your ears only.